Confident, powerful, transcendent. These are all words that can be used to describe Ichigo after his emergence from the Dangai. This version of Ichigo has a certain aura about him that makes him feel like he's untouchable and capable of just about anything. And this form of Ichigo keeps that reverence all the way throughout the end of the story and still to this very day. And what I mean by that is if you showed the average Bleach fan a picture of Dangai Ichigo, they'd tell you, yes, that is Ichigo at his absolute strongest, despite not even being Ichigo's quote-unquote final form and being revealed over 200 chapters before the actual end of the story. People still hold that reverence towards this version of Ichigo. Even with the introduction of godlike characters in the Thousand Year Blood War, it still feels like if you place Dangai or Mugetsu Ichigo in the Wahrwelt sub-arc, he would still be able to hold his own, if not right out win the day. Now, I've been asked a ton of times on this channel, Sterling, is Dangai Ichigo more powerful than true Bankai end of series Ichigo? Or Sterling, could Dangai Ichigo take down Gerard Valkyrie? How would Hashwalth's The Balance affect Dangai Ichigo? Or could Dangai Ichigo possibly even take out a prime Yhwach? I get questions like this all the time, and I think that they need an answer, and I also think it'd be a ton of fun to explore all these questions. So today, to do that, we're going to throw Dangai or Mugetsu Ichigo right into the thick of things, right into the middle of this Wahrwelt sub-arc, and see how he would not only go about combating the Schutzstaffel, but a prime Yhwach as well. We've explored what if Dangai or Mugetsu Ichigo fought in the first invasion of the Thousand Year Blood War, but this video is on a whole new level with much stronger characters. Will Dangai Ichigo have the necessary power to combat the god tier level characters that we see in Wahrwelt, or will he ultimately fall short? Guys, come with me as we explore what if Dangai Ichigo fought in Wahrwelt. Now, our setup for this one, obviously this is just a hypothetical because there's no way that Dangai Ichigo could have ever been present in the Thousand Year Blood War. The Mugetsu was a one-time deal. We obviously know how all that worked. But for the sake of fun, let's just say that these battles happen in a multiverse where Ichigo never lost his powers after defeating Aizen, has this Dangai form and access to the Mugetsu attack. But we're going to say he can only use it once, obviously, because we have to keep things fair. So how this will work is we're going to see if Dangai Ichigo, the transcendent Ichigo with his Zanpakuto merged with his arm with the badass chain, we're going to see if that version of Ichigo can make it through each and every Schutzstaffel member without having to use the final getsuga tensho, and then we will pin him up against a prime Yhwach, and that's where he can really break out that incredible technique. So guys, let's dive into our first battle against Dangai Ichigo and Gerard Valkyrie. Now, when it comes to this fight between Gerard Valkyrie, one of the strongest characters in the entire Bleach universe, and Dangai Ichigo, it would be a complete spectacle. I mean, I'm telling you, something like this would be beyond wonderful to see, and one day I would love to animate it. But like I mentioned earlier, Gerard is one of the most fearsome foes in all of Bleach, and Dangai Ichigo is definitely going to have his hands full in this battle. Now, there's many ways that Dangai Ichigo could go about combating Gerard Valkyrie, but there's a few things I want to talk about first. Now, would Gerard Valkyrie even be able to sense Ichigo? Because let's break down Gerard's Shrift, the Miracle, for just a second. When he runs up on the Gote 13, there's a reason he does that, because his Shrift is powered by, let's put it in simple terms. The more odds that Gerard's faced up against, the more his Shrift activates. So when he's going up against almost the entirety of the Gote 13, or at least what's left, fighting in the Wahrwelt, the odds are totally stacked against him, and his Miracle Shrift completely activates to its fullest, gigantifying him, raising all his power stats. It's quite incredible, to be honest. But what I'm getting at is, would Gerard Valkyrie even realize what he's going up against in Dangai Ichigo? If Aizen wasn't able to sense Ichigo, I'm not sure that Gerard Valkyrie would be able to. It's a fun thing to think about. Now, in that case, if Gerard Valkyrie doesn't sense that Dangai Ichigo is the insane threat that he is, then Ichigo just speed blitzes Gerard and takes him out just like Uetsu did in the Royal Palace. We saw Uetsu have his way with Gerard because, one, Gerard did not think the odds were stacked against him. In fact, he was very confident that he would beat Uetsu, and Uetsu was able to slice through him like butter, and like we saw in the anime, Gerard was taken out and then had to be revived by Yhwach later on. Now, let's play the flip side of that and say that Gerard Shrift the Miracle does recognize Ichigo as a massive threat, and it's determined that the odds are extremely against Gerard, and his Shrift powers him up and gigantifies him. This is something that I think would be beyond fun to see, and if this was animated, like I said, I plan on animating a battle like this because I love Dangai Ichigo, and I'd love to create something where you get to see the spectacle that is Dangai Ichigo versus a gigantified Gerard. But I digress. This battle would be insane because when it comes to Ichigo's speed and strength, he has Gerard totally topped. We saw a Shikai Kenpachi without his eye patch being able to stop Gerard's foot, and not only that, he was able to stop the force of Gerard's foot and push it back up and actually throw Gerard. And Gerard was almost 4 or 5 city blocks tall at this time. And in one of our previous videos, we actually calculated Gerard's weight to be somewhere between 70 tons and 120 tons. Now, that being said, if you think that Dangai Ichigo isn't as strong as far as strength goes, like throwing strength or lifting strength, as strong as Shikai non-eye patch Kenpachi, then you're absolutely crazy. Dangai Ichigo is much stronger than that. In fact, he was able to facepalm an Aizen all the way across Kurakura Town, all the way across the countryside and into the mountains of Kurakura Town. So much so to the fact where when that happened, Aizen's like, did you convert all your spirit energy into throwing strength and brute strength? Because that was absolutely insane. Now, obviously, we know Aizen said that because he couldn't sense Ichigo's spiritual pressure, and he was kind of in denial about it. But still, the point stands that Dangai Ichigo's strength far surpasses that non-eye patch Shikai Kenpachi. So a Dangai Ichigo would completely be able to have his way with Gerard Valkyrie as far as throwing him around or pinning him down. And here's actually a little fun fact, and bear with me here on this one. There's tons of people that say that Bleach isn't nearly as strong as other verses, or like the Dragon Ball verse completely craps on the Bleach verse. Well, in the Buu saga, and I know it's filler, but Goku's training in Otherworld, and King Kai has 8 tons worth of weights on him. In a base form, Buu Saga Goku is sweating and struggling to train with those weights. And when South Kai rolls up on that training, he's shocked that Goku's able to even train with that much. And King Kai, wanting to show off, looks at South Kai and goes, well, change his weights. Go ahead and add 80 tons on there. And so when he does that, South Kai and Goku has to go Super Saiyan to be able to bear that weight. So a Buu Saga level Super Saiyan Goku is able to lift 80 tons, but he was struggling before going Super Saiyan. Anyways, that's a long-winded way of saying that Kenpachi, as far as strength goes, is far stronger than a base form Buu Saga Goku, meaning he could probably throw around in Ozaru Vegeta. Anyways, I digress. It's just a fun little power scaling thing you can tell to some of your Dragon Ball friends. I love Dragon Ball too, but my point being is Dangai Ichigo's strength is through the roof. Now, with Ichigo's superior speed and strength, this is how I could see him going about taking out a gigantified Gerard Valkyrie. We see time and time again that Dangai Ichigo's strength is just beyond imaginable. Just a kinetic energy when him and Aizen clash swords is enough to completely destroy that mountain that's always in the backdrop of Kurakura Town. It's completely massive, and Ichigo even goes on to say that it wasn't Aizen's sword, that it was his sword. So hear me out. Just the casual slashes from Ichigo's sword at this point are beyond powerful. And we know that the win condition to destroy Gerard Valkyrie is to destroy the golem medallion that lies inside him, because Gerard Valkyrie is pretty much just a Quincy golem, and if you're able to destroy that Quincy cross inside of him while also dealing with the miracle, then you're able to defeat Gerard Valkyrie. So just imagine that Dangai Ichigo uses just a normal Getsuga Tensho, not the final, just a normal one. He was toying with Aizen the entire time. We never actually got to see him launch just a normal attack, but if he did, I think it would be more than enough to take out Gerard's Quincy Cross, and even if it wasn't, I could see Dangai Ichigo flash stepping from building to building, just constantly attacking Gerard, slice after slice, slice after slice, at almost light speed. We see Ichigo's able to counteract Aizen, who's more or less teleporting at that point when he's in that form. He's teleporting around Ichigo, and Ichigo's able to counter him each and every time. So there's a very good chance that Ichigo could speed blitz Gerard so many times that he's able to more or less slice Gerard up like some mincemeat while also taking out that Quincy Cross. Now that is headcanon, but you just have to keep in mind how strong this version of Ichigo truly was. Anyone questioning Dangai Ichigo's strength, just go back to the scene where Aizen releases a full incantation Kurohitsuga Black Coffin at Ichigo, and just Ichigo literally just backhands it apart. Backhands one of Aizen's strongest attacks. So if Ichigo was going all out with the force of his sword, I do believe he'd be able to take out Gerard Valkyrie. And that's not saying that Gerard's not one of the strongest characters in the series. It's just Dangai Ichigo is pretty much him. And you also have to keep in mind that the Gote 13 that are in Wahrwelt would probably be present for this battle. So one, Ichigo could just blitz by Gerard and move on to his next opponent, but for the sake of this video, that would have been no fun. But just imagine that Ichigo not only hits Gerard with an attack, but Hitsugaya and Byakuya as well. Now, for the sake of this video, we didn't include them, but there would be no situation where Dangai Ichigo would be struggling, like to the point where he'd be worried about a Gerard Valkyrie. Now, this battle could be drawn out for quite some time, and we do know that Ichigo is on somewhat of a time limit. He does want to make it to prime Yhwach, where he can actually use the final Getsuga Tensho, and that's if he does make it. So speaking of that, let's move on to Ichigo's next opponent. When it comes to Askin Vaar and his Shrift the Death Dealing, he's a problem for anyone in the series, but I do want to get one little tidbit out of the way. In the manga, we see that Askin's able to drop an end-of-series Ichigo with his Death Dealing, and a lot of people say that, like, oh wow, Askin was able to KO Ichigo right there. And something you have to keep in mind is, first of all, Ichigo didn't even have his Zanpakuto toe drawn at that point. He was completely off guard, and he happened to run into Askin's territory, more or less. How he can put that radius of the Gift Beerike up, not the full Gift Beerike, but his poison area, or his poison pool is what he calls it. And Ichigo runs into that where he's designated Reishi as poisonous, and obviously Ichigo drops to his face. That would not be happening with Dangai Ichigo. Dangai Ichigo is just at a transcendent level, not saying that he's stronger than end of series Ichigo, but if end of series Ichigo would have been in his Horn of Salvation form, I'm not quite sure that Askin and his little run-in would have went like that. Here's the thing when it comes to Dangai Ichigo versus any of these Shootstoffel members. If they don't take Dangai Ichigo as the major threat that he is, then they're all getting soloed right there on the spot. We saw that Oetsu was able to do it with that extremely sharp Zanpakuto that he wasn't able to send down to Serete. They underestimate him, and he's able to slice through each and every one of them. Now, if they were in their Volstandings to begin with, that would not have happened, but if they're just standing around taking a Dangai Ichigo lightly, then he could mow through every one of them. And I say that to say this. If Askin's in his joking-like nature and kind of, it's not that he plays around with his opponents, it's just he doesn't get down to business right away. And if he doesn't get down to business right away, then Dangai Ichigo speed blitzes him so fast and destroys him, it's not even funny. But for fun and for the sake of this video, I want to talk about Dangai Ichigo versus a full-powered, let's just say he runs up on Askin on the spot, and Askin has his Volstanding deployed and is just about to deploy the unescapable Gift Bearreich. Now, this is where a lot of you may say, all right, this is where Dangai Ichigo goes down. There's no way that he can escape the Gift Bearreich. Even Askin tells Uehara that it's unescapable, but he means for Uehara it's unescapable, and for most opponents that it's unescapable, but not Dangai Ichigo. And Dangai Ichigo would be able to escape the Gift Bearreich not even because of his power, but because of the same reason he was able to escape Quilge's jail ability. Ichigo has a little bit of Quincy in him, and in this form, this Dangai form, it's pretty much his two Zanpakuto spirits, a young representation of Yhwach, his Quincy powers, and then obviously White, the hollow inside him. It's them fusing together almost DBZ style to create Dangai Ichigo. So his Quincy powers at this point, I believe he'd be able to slice through not only Quilge's jail ability, but Askin's Gift Bearreich as well. Now, that's a little bit headcanon, but I believe it to be true. Tell me in the comments below, guys, how do you think that would work? Do you think Ichigo being part Quincy, that he'd be able to escape the Gift Bearreich just like Quilge's jail? I want to know down in the comments below. Now, if the whole Ichigo being able to escape Askin's Gift Bearreich because he's part Quincy just doesn't sit right with you, here's another feat that may change your mind. Like I mentioned earlier, we see that Ichigo's able to backhand his way out of a full incantation Black Coffin from Aizen. So if you think that Ichigo wouldn't be able to break through the Gift Bearreich with a sword slash, something with much more force, then you're crazy. Aizen says multiple times that the full incantation Kirohitsugi is inescapable, just like Askin Vaar says that the Gift Bearreich is inescapable, and we see Ichigo, like I said, just backhands his way out of that Black Coffin. So if Ichigo really wanted to get out of that Gift Bearreich, I believe he could put some force behind a sword attack and shatter the Bearreich walls. A lot of people don't realize how impressive that feat of Ichigo escaping the Kirohitsugi truly is. The Kirohitsugi isn't just an inescapable prison, it's literally a black hole. Ichigo was able to backhand a black hole. That's getting into levels of strength that are unimaginable. Now, if Ichigo spends too much time with Askin, then yes, the death dealing may become a problem for him, but Ichigo's not going to fool around with Askin. He's going to immediately take him out. Here's the somewhat final nail in the coffin for Askin. We see that when he's taken off guard, that Grimmjow's able to put his hand up through Askin's back and rip out his heart. If you're telling me that Dangai Ichigo wouldn't be able to catch Askin off guard with his insane speed, then you're nuts. So just like Grimmjow was able to catch Askin off guard, obviously Askin didn't think anyone else was in the Gift Bearreich, but still, I believe Ichigo could get Askin off guard or get into a blind spot quick enough to where he'd be able to deal a killing blow on Askin. Now, in our video, What If Ichigo Never Lost His Powers After Defeating Aizen, we had Dangai Ichigo fight in the first invasion, and Lille Barro is where a lot of you had Dangai Ichigo losing. And you are right, this would be Dangai Ichigo's toughest fight, but I wouldn't necessarily say he loses. Now, right off the bat, just like in our other battles, Lil has to start out in Volstanding or with his Shrift activated, or Dangai Ichigo speed blitzes him and absolutely has his way. Just like, I know I've brought it up many times, but we see that the Schutzstaffel aren't always as mighty as they're portrayed in their Wahrwelt battles against the actual Gote 13. We see that they're susceptible to Oetsu's blade attacks. We see time and time again that in the Royal Palace, the Schutzstaffel are susceptible to certain attacks, and they can be destroyed if they don't have their hack shrift activated from the get-go. Obviously, their showings in Wahrwelt are much better than what we've seen so far in the Royal Palace. Although the anime has made that battle so much better, we see that they're still susceptible to Senjimaru's Bankai. We see Oetsu take them out. We see that the Royal Guard's actually able to fight the Schutzstaffel in the very beginning. Now, it's once they start activating their Volstanding, they put up a better fight, but nothing near what we saw in Wahrwelt. So that's a long-winded way of saying that if all these Schutzstaffel don't take this battle seriously, then they're going to be taken out unless they have their Shrift activated and in their holy form. And that really is a true testament to Dangai Ichigo's insane strength. Now, when it comes to this actual battle between him and Lil, in my personal opinion, this would be, other than a battle with Yhwach, this one would be the most fun to see. We'd see an incredibly strong Dangai Ichigo, in my opinion, flash-stepping around, being able to dodge most of base Lil's attacks. Now, keep in mind that the X-axis is an incredibly strong and hack shrift, and Dangai Ichigo may not even be able to avoid some of these hits just because of the way the X-axis works. He can pretty much guarantee that he hits his target. There's no space in between. It truly is a magnificent shrift, but hear me out. Would this even be able to damage Dangai Ichigo whatsoever? We see that he's able to just backhand attacks from Aizen. Aizen shoots off a blast that looks like a nuclear explosion, but it's far, far stronger than that when Aizen's in his final form. If you guys all remember, when he's battling Dangai Ichigo, at this point he's incredibly mad, and he's launching off what looks to be Grand Ray Seros from those like hollow-like mouths when he's in his final form. Anyways, Ichigo literally backhands one of those away with his arm and takes very little damage. And to be honest, Ichigo's chastising Aizen that entire fight. He's just toying with him. If he truly wanted to block that attack with his sword, he would have been able to. Now, I know Lil's attacks work differently, and they would be able to bypass Ichigo's sword and hit Ichigo, but is it going to do any damage to someone like Dangai Ichigo with durability like I just explained? I know this sounds like a Dangai Ichigo hype fest video, but that's kind of what it is. This is Ichigo at a pinnacle of strength that is transcendent. Now, that being said, if Lil is in his holy form or even his second holy form, I don't see how Dangai Ichigo would be able to blast his attack back at him. You know, that's how Lil is ultimately defeated by the sacred family Zanpakuto of the Isai. She's able to use that mirror-like Zanpakuto and shoot Lil's godly-like blast right back at him. So I'm not 100% sure if Dangai Ichigo has the means to be able to defeat Lil like that, or ultimately defeat Lil altogether just because his intangibility, or I shouldn't say intangibility, but the ability that the X-axis allows his shots is the same ability that it allows his body. So is Dangai Ichigo going to be able to attack Lille whatsoever. It really is a tricky subject. Now, this is going to be extremely headcanon, but hear me out. Dangai Ichigo may be on such a transcendent level that some of these shrifts don't even work properly when going up against Dangai Ichigo. And hear me out. Like I said, that's totally pulled from headcanon world, but we see that Aizen's able to nullify Soifan's the effects of Soifan Shikai, and he states it's because of his spiritual pressure. And we see time and time again that if someone in Bleach's spiritual pressure is higher than the opponent he's going against, a lot of times their hacks abilities don't work against said opponent. And now we don't know if that's exactly how it would operate with the shrifts, but there is a very good chance that Dangai Ichigo isn't even affected by any of these shrifts because of his transcendent being. Now, that is extremely headcanon, but I want to hear down in the comments below, what do you guys think about that? Do you think the X-Axis would be able to not only affect Dangai Ichigo, but do you think it would be able to damage him if it did? How do you think these other shrifts would work against Dangai Ichigo? It really is the mystery of this entire video. I'm under the impression that it's kind of a 50-50 thing. We see that Dangai Ichigo, like I've said many times, is just at an insane level, and we're not even quite sure how other powers would affect him. The downside for Dangai Ichigo in this fight is he may not have a means to destroy Lille. Now, in regards to this what if, Dangai Ichigo is trying to make it through each and every Schutzstaffel member without using the final getsuga tensho. So if he ends up having to use it on one of these Schutzstaffel members, then the battle for all three realms is ultimately over. But let's just say for a second he does use the final getsuga tensho on Lille. I believe no matter what Lille's shrift is, it would nullify it and take Lille out. In a data book I've read, it says that the Mugetsu attack is the ultimate attack in the Bleach universe, and nothing trumps it. Meaning it's stronger than anything Aizen has. It's stronger than, hypothetically, going off that statement, anything a prime Yhwach has as well. But according to that statement, that attack is the ultimate attack in the entire series. So I do believe if he did use it on Lille, he would ultimately destroy Lille. But that would be the end of the rest of the battles, because he would lose his powers and not be able to go on to fight Yhwach. But as far as this battle between Dangai Ichigo and Lille, I think it would be incredible to see. And as in regards to creating these what-if animations, a Dangai Ichigo versus the Schutzstaffel would look somewhat like this. It would be Dangai Ichigo versus the Schutzstaffel with no one else present. And it would be a ton of fun because we get to see Ichigo fight each and every one of them, just like how I've explained in this video. But if we're really going off a legit what-if, then Ichigo, like I've mentioned earlier, is going to have comrades around him, and they're going to ultimately help him scoot by some of these Schutzstaffel. And that's the thing. With Lille, Hashwalth, and Pernida, Ichigo just may not have the means to ultimately right out destroy them. Now, Hashwalth may be the only one. I want to talk about how the balance would affect Dangai Ichigo. Do you believe that it would even have any effect on him? Because how the balance works is it turns Hashwalth's bad fortune into good fortune for him. So we see so many times that it's such a hack shrift that it can somewhat get Hashwalth out of any situation, but we also see some downsides to it too. We see Tanjiro of the Hot Spring be able to throw around not just Hashwalth's shield, but just do away with his sword as well, and do away with Hashwalth. Just like I've mentioned many times in this video, there's certain times where the Schutzstaffel aren't as almighty as they seem in the Wahrwelt. Like I've said many times in this video, if any of these opponents that Ichigo's facing try to go up against Dangai Ichigo without their shrifts activated and without their Volst standings activated, then they're going to get cut down in such a quick manner that it's not even funny. I just want you guys to look at it this way. Imagine Final Form Aizen, the one we see battling Dangai Ichigo. Imagine him fighting each and every one of these Schutzstaffel Shootstoffel members. How do you think he would do? In my opinion, I think he would fight a good battle with any of the Shootstoffel members. It would be an incredible battle to see. Talk about animating something fun. Now take that Aizen and multiply his power by an unmeasurable amount. That version of Aizen wasn't even able to sense Dangai Ichigo. That is how strong Dangai Ichigo truly is. When Hashwalth has access to not only the balance, but the almighty as well, he's almost unbeatable. It ends up taking Yhwach himself, killing Gerard and Hashwalth to actually take them out for good. The same can be said about Pernida. Obviously, we all know the way he ends up dying is by eating Nemu's, that organ in Nemu that allows her to keep learning and progressing. And that ultimately is what overloads Pernida. I don't want to get too into how Pernida is destroyed, but Ichigo may not have the means to totally destroy Pernida as well. Now, if you want to say he launches a normal getsuga tensho and it's enough to obliterate kind of like a perfect cell type thing, obliterate every one of Pernida's cells, then that may be a way to destroy him. Maybe Ichigo could launch multiple normal Getsuga Tenshos at a rapid speed and do away with them that way. But it truly is hard telling. All these battles are... It's hard to gauge Dangai Ichigo just because of how insane his speed is. Ichigo is moving at light speed in his battles against Byakuya in the Soul Society arc, and this Ichigo is thousands of times stronger than that Ichigo we see. So when it comes to just speed, strength, raw durability, there's nothing that any of these Shootstoffel members are going to do to be able to destroy Dangai Ichigo. Does that make sense? Now, I'm not saying Dangai Ichigo would totally have the means to destroy them, but it would be a one-sided battle of Ichigo just kicking them around. Like I said, there's a good chance that his spiritual pressure alone nullifies a lot of these hack shrifts. But even if you don't want to go with that, how would any of these Shootstoffel members go about actually destroying Dangai Ichigo? Now, I want to talk a little bit about the what if of all this. Can you imagine the spectacle of Dangai Ichigo being present in the Shootstoffel? Now, how it would have to work is we'd have to skew kind of all the training, the Royal Palace training. We could still leave that in there, but more or less we'd have to put Ichigo in a situation where he's forced to have to access the Dangai form. That would mean we'd have to say it had never happened before, and this would be the first time him accessing it. So let's just roll with that and say he obtains he does the Dangai training and obtains that form and shows up in Wahrwelt. Everyone in the vicinity would shit their pants immediately. I mean, full-bring Bankai Ichigo, who wasn't even at... I mean, he probably was at 50% when he showed up in the Soul Society in the 1,000-Year Blood War, and all the Sternritter were like, what the hell is that? Like, what just showed up? Can you imagine how they would be absolutely crapping their pants if Dangai Ichigo showed up on scene? And that's the thing. If Dangai Ichigo did show up in the Wahrwelt, there's a good chance that Yhwach would know that his Shootstoffel members aren't going to be enough. Besides maybe Uryu, the antithesis is... We'll talk about that at the very end. But there's a good chance that Yhwach would just come for Dangai Ichigo. Now, there's a huge argument in the community of which one's stronger, Horn of Salvation Ichigo or Dangai Ichigo. In some Viz translations, Yhwach says to Ichigo, you're finally starting to reach that power that you had when you fought Aizen. And then some translations say that you've surpassed that power. So it kind of depends on what translation you read. More or less, when it comes to Dangai Ichigo and Mugetsu Ichigo, he's one of the strongest characters in the entire series. He's up there on a godly level, right under a prime Yhwach. But when it comes to a battle between Dangai Ichigo and a prime Yhwach, Prime Yhwach still wins. The only way that Dangai Ichigo would be able to win this battle against a Prime Yhwach, man, I'm just thinking about how incredible this would be to see, would be the Still Silver Arrow. That is the only way that they're actually able to defeat Yhwach in the actual story. So it really doesn't matter how strong Dangai Ichigo is, even if he does use the Mugetsu, without that Silver Arrow, it's not going to destroy Yhwach. Now, if they're able to fire the Silver Arrow at Yhwach and Dangai Ichigo activates the final getsuga tensho and wipes Yhwach out that way, then yes, I do believe it would work. But as far as a Dangai Ichigo versus all the Schutzstaffel members, I do think that he would ultimately be able to have his way with each and every one of them. We're just not 100% sure how he would destroy Hashwalth, Pernida, and Lille, but I do think he'd be able to destroy Gerard's Quincy Golem. I think Dangai Ichigo, like I've said many times in this video, his speed, his strength, his raw durability is just so much higher than almost every single character in the series besides, well, obviously himself, end of series Ichigo, or a Prime Yhwach. But guys, I want to know down in the comments below, how do you think a Dangai Ichigo would do against the Schutzstaffel? Do you believe Dangai and Mugetsu Ichigo is stronger than end of series Ichigo? In my opinion, end of series Ichigo is stronger than Dangai Ichigo, but not stronger than that one. There's no attack that Horn of Salvation Ichigo has that would be able to be on the level of the final getsuga tensho. So if that makes sense, each form has its pros and cons. Ichigo has to have the power he has in the final arc because there's no final about it. Ichigo can blast off as many attacks as he wants in his end of series form, obviously as long as he has the spiritual reishi left. But Dangai Ichigo, he only has that final getsuga tensho, that final means of attack, and once he uses that, his powers are gone. So that is the con that ultimately makes end of series Ichigo stronger. But in the end, both forms, Horn of Salvation Ichigo and Mugetsu Ichigo, are both two of the most formidable forms in the entire Bleach universe, right under a Prime Yhwach and a hypothetical Prime Soul King. Is this something that you guys would like to see animated? I would love to create it one day. I had an absolute blast talking about Dangai Ichigo and the Schutzstaffel. Now, don't get me wrong, every one of the Schutzstaffel members are extremely strong. It's just Dangai Ichigo is on a godly level. But tell me in the comments below, do you think his hack spiritual pressure would be able to hack out the Shrifts? How do you think that would work? Do you think they'd be able to damage a Dangai Ichigo? Tell me how strong you think Dangai Ichigo is. I want to know all these things down in the comments below. Seriously, one of my favorite things about the entire Bleach series is Ichigo's Dangai form and the final Getsuga Tensho. I think it's Ichigo at its best. I think it's probably Bleach at its best. It's absolutely peak, and I love this form of Dangai Ichigo, and I want to hear what you guys have to say about it in the comments below. Guys, until then, this has been an absolute blast. This is Sterling signing out. Editing Sterling here. If you're wondering why I had the thumbnail present for the entire video instead of multiple slides representing what I'm talking about at the time, it's because I've been having a huge problem with YouTube, and what they'll do is they won't save my thumbnail, and it'll just randomly take an image from one of my videos and save that as the thumbnail. So literally no one's clicking on my videos because we all know that the thumbnail is what gets you drawn into the video. So like, for example, I made in my Yuri video the other day, and it had Basby as the thumbnail because it just generated a random image from my video instead of actually showing the thumbnail that I spend a lot of time on creating so I get you guys pulled into the video. So anyways, it's not because I'm a lazy editor or didn't want to make this video fun. I actually had tons of images for this. It would have been an absolute blast to be able to display them. But since they're pulling a random image for my thumbnail, well, I just made the thumbnail almost the entire video. So anyways, guys, until I get that problem figured out with YouTube, bear with me, because this is the only way to counteract it until I hear back from them. I want people to see the thumbnails that I put all this hard work into. Anyways, with that being said, I apologize for the inconvenience. Have a good one, guys.